Hi everybody, this is the host, aka Host 1.
And the co-host, aka Host 2 here. Just a few quick words before we jump into the episode.
If you're a new listener, here's how the show works. We typically will spend about 5% of the episode at the beginning and the end talking about a motivational related topic, and then the other 95% of the episode is a ton of comedy in between.
We'd appreciate it if you could please like, subscribe, and share the show with other people. Feel free to leave us a comment wherever you're listening or send an email to facetodaypodcast@gmail.com.
Now, back to the episode. And we're back.
We're back.
Co-host and Host 1 are here once again for the Face the Day podcast.
We are so glad to have you back. Thank you for listening. This looks to be our best episode yet.
No pressure, though, on you, co-host.
No pressure at all.
We have a lot of good episodes under our belt, and we're really actually more excited for the future here at the Face Today podcast because, as we said last time on last episode, we are now not technically officially, but in the works of being a part of the PTT, the Pounding the Table Media Network, and we'll have more on that in the coming weeks, but just keep a lookout for the Pounding the Table Media Network.
Yes, please do. We're so excited to be working with them, the PTT Media Network. We're going to have a very special guest host, hopefully soon, so keep an eye out and an ear out.
Yes, and we are here on the first day of October, and it's my favorite month. Co-host, is it your favorite month as well, or no?
You know what? It's one of my favorite months.
Okay.
Yes. You're more of a fall guy than
I'm
I
a
am.
big time October guy. I always have been. It's kind of just the sweet spot between, it's like fall turning into winter, but it's beautiful. It's crisp, clear, 50-degree, low 60 days, and it's just beautiful, and I love it. And I'm a big fan of it, and I just wanted to shout out to October 1st because today is October 1st.
Today is October 1st. I am a 80-degree humid type guy.
Yeah.
Co-host here. This is his type of weather. Some people are winter people. I think it says a little bit about you, the type of weather you prefer. But
yeah. It's my sweet spot, and I own it. I also like other seasons, but I just love the fall and I love October. And we also the title of this episode is going to be "Take the Adventure," and we have some thoughts on that. Do you want me to give my thoughts, or do you want to give your thoughts first?
Give your thoughts. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We could honestly, I could go into Take the Adventure for 10 minutes here, but I'm not going to. I don't want to bore you, but Take the Adventure is a part of Face the Day, and it's basically like we want our listeners to be encouraged to don't be lazy, don't be scared. Feel the fear and face it, like one of our past episodes, and just do things even if you don't fully want to. You need to take the adventure and see where things lead. So if you're making plans and you're a little iffy, you might want to stay in, just go. If you're not sure if you should book this trip, just go. If you're not sure if you should follow up on what your friends said they want you to do, just go. Do it. Take the adventure and let the adventure ride out and see what happens.
Well said, co-host. Well said. And one thing that we and you were discussing off air, there is a difference between choosing the adventure and taking the adventure.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just take the adventure is all. You shouldn't. The whole point is to not think much. It's whenever you're confronted with a decision where you're like, I'm not sure. Just do it. Take the adventure.
Do it.
Somewhat similar to Yes Man with Jim Carrey, the movie, but not as extreme. But the same kind of concept where it's like you're gonna take the adventure, you're gonna see what happens, and you don't know where life's gonna take you from that point.
You don't. And you know what? The co-host himself has given me that advice many times to take it. And if I overthought it, the night would have turned out or the day would have turned out differently. But I didn't think, I didn't choose, I just took it. You seize it, and then the adventure comes to you.
And we're gonna jump into the episode now. Thanks for listening to our intro, but we've got to start with the content and the topics here. And I'm gonna start with you, co-host. And the first topic for today's show is going to be about Kim Kardashian. And the Kardashians are everywhere. Most people around the world at least know of them, but here in the U.S. they are just massive. Not only their butts, but just their personalities, their following. And I just have to ask you, co-host, their personalities, are big as well, besides their asses. And I just have to ask you, co-host, what are your thoughts on Kim Kardashian acting as if she is relatable to all the bad bitches and girls out there? On every fucking interview and talk show she goes on, she is just so down to earth. She is just miss. I'm just like you out there.
Yeah.
But she conveniently decides to leave out A, how much help she's received with her career, B, how much money she has behind her pouring into everything she does, not only with her own personal account, but people investing in her and everything. But yet, Sally Sue in rural Nebraska, you can be just like Kim Kardashian if you work hard, and Kim wants you to know that. How relatable of a bad bitch is Kim Kardashian?
Well, me and you go back and forth on Kim K and Sally Sue. We actually talked about last episode, Sally Sue.
Yeah, we did.
Because we talked
Sally
about Saudi.
Sue is our
We talked about Saudi. I thought it was Saudi Sue, but you said no, not Saudi. It's Sally. But Kim K. Well, I'm gonna let you go with most of the thoughts because you co-host. You know the Kardashians. I know that you know people that know a lot about them. And they are not, they try to be relatable, but they're not.
The thing about Kim Kardashian, I know a lot of people that follow her and the Kardashians movement, and I've brought this up with some of them, and they're pretty defensive, and they say that Kim and her crew actually does not try to act like they're relatable, and they own the whole we have a great life and that. But from my perspective, I've watched many interviews, many TV shows, radio interviews, everything with Kim. She comes into these interviews and she acts as if she's very, very relatable and that everyone can be just like her. And, it's one thing to own. I'm a big fan of capitalism. I'm a big fan of people getting rich and making money. That's great and all. But when you have, what she has behind her I think you're doing a disservice to the public in a way where you just own that sense of it and don't try to make it seem like everyone can just be like you, because you've had a lot of fucking help, Kim. You've got a lot of breaks. You grew up out there in LA. You had a sex tape that launched your whole career to begin with. You're very You were very attractive. I don't think you're that attractive anymore. But don't try to pretend that everyone could just be like you.
Well said, and totally agree with everything. And do you think Kris Jenner, her mom, is responsible for that type of branding image?
I do. I think Kris Jenner, as the great Michael Rappaport always says, pimpin' Kris Jenner. he actually labels Kris Jenner as pimpin' Kris Jenner, which I think is true, because pimpin' Kris Jenner is out there, just pimping all her girls away, and that whole clan, who the show's been running for 20 years or whatnot. Oh. But he always says the second shit hits the fan, or there's controversial shit going on with the Kardashians, she's nowhere to be found ever. She's only around for the good stuff.
Yes.
And she's just making money off all her girls with the big butts.
Great insight.
Yep.
Yes. Wow.
And so Kris Jenner, she just, enough.
Enough is enough. And you know what? Her two youngest daughters, the Jenner girls, they're both gorgeous, but they've also been pimped out. And, God knows what they really are like on a day-to-day basis. But that's a whole nother podcast in itself, and we'll come back to this topic.
And the Kardashians, like you just said, co-host too, they deserve a whole nother, kind of like LinkedIn, they deserve a whole nother episode, if anything.
Yes.
So we're going to jump into another popular person in culture and the world right now, and that's Joe Biden, the current president of the United States as of October 1st, 2022. If you're going to be listening to this somewhere in the future, we don't know if he's going to be the president 2-3 years from now. We have no idea, but currently he is. And like I've said to you in the past and some other folks that we speak to, how many times is Joe Biden going to use "my family's from Scranton, PA, and my dad carried a bucket to work, and I'm just like you"? And any time anything happens in just anything negative, he always reverts back to that, and he always makes sure that the typical American knows that he grew up in a blue-collar family. His dad carried a bucket to work, and he's just like you.
Yep, he's just like us.
How many times is he going to use this?
Well, we always talk about his Scranton, PA roots,
yep.
And his also, how about the way that he always says, look. I think that was a previous podcast.
We did talk about that last time.
We talked about that. Look.
Biden's got a lot of issues. We've seen videos where he can barely put his jacket on. He's falling off stages. He's forgetting who people are. But I think that he has a lot of yes men, and apparently he's been locked in a basement for a lot of his life.
He might
at least recently.
Recently, yes.
But I think he does he needs to break out of the shell of like the whole pitch during his campaign of being like, relatable blue collar small town guy. That was great during that, but I think he needs to break off from that a bit.
He needs to break off. And this is not a political podcast. And if you are a fan of Joe, then listen. We would if we both saw Joe, we would shake his hand. Joe, the man himself.
I expected more from Joe. I'm not gonna lie.
I think we all did.
Yeah, I thought he would be a little better. I mean, there's obviously you're never gonna be perfect, but I think he could be a little more sharp and on point, and just more in control of his image and everything. He seems like he's fallen off a lot. I'm sure the stress of presidency gets to you, but man, he's a lot different than what I remember, especially when he was VP. He's just different now.
He's different. He's seen better days, and we wish him the best. We don't wish. My friend used to say that you never wish ill upon the current president, and we don't. Whether we agree with him or not, he is the president.
Right. He is the president. And we wish him the best, but we'll see what happens going forward. And there's obviously campaigns and new elections coming up, so we'll see what happens. Now we got to jump into another, somewhat celebrity, someone a very well worldwide entrepreneurial. And I've talked about this with you in the past as well. What the fuck happened to Jack Ma?
Oh no, Jack Ma himself. Has he resurfaced or has he still disappeared? Nobody knows.
He got into some shit. He became a multi-billionaire because he founded Alibaba, I believe.
Alibaba,
which is a major e-commerce Chinese platform. Believe his net worth was at some point was at like over 40 billion, and he ran into some shit with the Chinese government. I don't have the notes in front of me. Once we become more of a legit podcast, we'll actually have notes and fact checking and all that, but. For right now, all I remember is that he got into some shit with the Chinese government, and they basically called him out publicly and like threatened him. Mm-hmm. And the next month, he had completely disappeared. No one had any idea where he was. For the next 2 years, he was almost nowhere to be found.
Yes,
nowhere.
And to add about the point you made about fact checking, as far as information coming out of that part of the world, I don't believe any of the fact checking. I think that there's so many sources. You cannot take any type of reliable information. It's all hearsay. You don't know. So what happened to Jack? Just like the Emperor Xi Jinping, he disappeared for about a month, and then obviously he just resurfaced. So
the Chinese government, you don't mess with them. It's all about shame and not disrupting the harmonious vibe of things. And the second you kind of veer off that path, there's a lot of bad shit that can happen to you. And I've heard horror stories.
Yes, likewise.
You don't ever get into that situation because you'll be taken, and it doesn't matter how rich you are. You'll you
could be Jack Ma and you'll end up in a labor camp.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
So
wow.
Speaking of Jack Ma and the Chinese, I have to ask you something, co-host, and this is just an observation, but why do so many Chinese people have that same headshot of them not smiling with a very straight face with that blue background? This is on LinkedIn. This is on many other like professional areas where they share their photo, and they all have that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know what? I have to. We should post it to our account here because I'm more curious to hear your thoughts, co-host.
I don't really know. I mean, I've worked with some Chinese professionals in the past, and it just seems to be part of their culture, but it still doesn't explain why they do that or why what like you should make like I feel like you should be smiling and trying to look at least somewhat good in your professional photos. It's just a very eerie feeling when you're like dealing with that.
Americans go to great lengths just to get a good headshot, especially in general or for LinkedIn.
And I don't know if this is the case in China, but I know that I spent some time living abroad in South Korea, and from what I heard, which is actually very disturbing to me, is that a lot of the females, the girls in South Korea, their headshots and just professional photos in general, they were forced to get plastic surgery to look a certain way, or they weren't even considered for certain roles by the male hiring managers and the bosses there. And it happened very frequently. So in a scary type of way, a lot of them started to look very similar because they all were getting the same plastic surgeries. Ooh. But they were also like every headshot that you would see in Korea was like it just looked exactly the same.
That's
There's
wild.
like no difference
That's wild.
whatsoever.
That's crazy, like pressure.
Yeah, it's South Korea is a very misogynistic culture, and I can say that with certainty because I live there and I know the vibe. It's different. It's
different. It really is a lot different.
The U.S. is becoming very like feminism is good, and we believe it's good, but there's a lot of pros and cons to everything, but.
Yeah,
it's just different vibe over there.
Different vibe, and obviously women will say that they have pressure to look a certain way, and that's true. And it seems like it's even more apparent.
Yes,
over there.
Now we're gonna leave Asia for now because we've talked about them for the last 5 minutes or so here. We always love Asia. We're always gonna probably talk about them again, but for now I have to ask you about a U.S. celeb that I guarantee you don't know the answer to this because my point is that. 50% of the time, if you ask someone if Regis Philbin is alive or dead, they won't know.
They won't know.
Do you know?
Do you know?
Do you know?
I know.
I asked you first.
I know because I liked Regis.
You're a Regis fan.
I'm a Regis fan. So I know the answer to this, sadly.
If our listeners out there are like alive, dead, alive,
dead,
I bet it's 50%.
50%.
Because no one ever knows. To be honest with you, I didn't. The other day, someone asked me this, and I didn't know, but I found out the answer.
Yes, and you know what? I know the answer because
what's the answer?
I think the answer is that he is. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, and because I at the time I thought, especially with he used to come on David Letterman's show a lot, and there wasn't a big enough deal made about it when he passed away. That's why I kind of was like, he was a legend. He was a broadcast legend in America, and
he was. And did you watch? Not only Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but did you watch Regis and Kelly and all his other stuff?
Yeah, sure, of course. He had been on the air for a long time. You've been on the air for 50 years.
Right.
You deserve a better send-off.
Yeah, well, you deserve for people to know if you're alive or dead. I think it's kind of like sad in a way where like people don't even know if he's alive or dead because you'd think he was like bigger than that.
Yes,
and people would know.
Don't know. Good point, co-host. Good. Yes. Let's pour something out for Regis.
Pour a shout out and a shout out for Regis Philbin, folks.
Yes.
Kelly Ripa. That's a whole other story. I'm not really a fan of her. She seems like I haven't really read much about her background or done much research, but she seems like a silver spoon fed type. I'm sure she grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut type vibe.
Yep.
Hasn't really struggled much and got lucky with promotions based off of who she knew and nepotism. But I don't know that it's a fact. I'm just thinking that.
I think
just the vibe. I guess.
The vibe. I think you're mostly right. Absolutely.
Yeah. She doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like the opposite with her.
No,
I'm just
she's
going to say
East
that.
Coast, born and bred, East Coast.
Yeah.
And she, who was the woman that Regis did it with before? It was Kathy something?
Kathy Griffin.
Or Kathy Lee.
Kathy Lee. And then Kelly Ripa came on and took everything over. Is she married to Tommy Lee?
Tommy Lee? Oh, that's Pamela
Lee.
That's
we were
Pamela
talking about Asians. Lee.
Lee.
Lee. A fact. In Korea, almost 60% of the country, their last name's Kim, and then the rest are just Lee and Park. Park and Choi.
And Kim.
Kim is like 60%.
Yes. Kim.
But yeah, it's just Lee in Korea. Everyone, it's just Lee. Everyone's the same fucking last name.
Well, this is Kathy Lee with a Lee, more of an American style. But still, maybe she is South Korean.
Somehow, some way, someone is South Korean out there.
Where there's a woods, there's a way.
I mean, Kim Jong-un, his last name's Kim.
Kim, exactly.
Kim.
Yes.
They also have their last name as their first name.
Yeah.
They say it first. I don't really understand why.
Why? I don't know.
We're gonna shift gears here. We're gonna talk about another kind of like well-known, I guess he's technically a celebrity. He was a former athlete. Now he's in the broadcast booth. Probably broadcasts a lot of games you've watched, a lot of our listeners have watched. Troy Aikman.
Troy
Aikman, legendary Dallas Cowboys quarterback, now in the broadcast booth, most notably with Joe Buck.
Yeah.
And my observation, and I just have to ask you, co-host, does he have any sense of humor?
He does not. Great question.
I think it's a great question.
I
have never ever seen Troy ever like laugh or tell a joke or like
he's so weird.
Go off the path.
It's funny. The co-host and I have not talked about this before the podcast. We are winging this, and we agree 100% on Troy Aikman. There's something way
let
off.
me just elaborate on what you just said. When my co-host says winging it, that's actually this may change in the future, but as of now, our podcast, our structure is simply like, I dish questions to my co-host, and he gives me his thoughts and his answers, and I obviously touch on them as well. But this is not pre-planned or prepared. We don't discuss any of this before, and we love the rawness.
Rawness
of it.
It's totally off the cuff.
Yep.
We're bringing it to you live.
And that's the beauty of the Face the Day podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did you have any other thoughts on Troy? Sorry.
You know what? Troy, obviously, him and Joe have been doing the games for a while.
Yeah.
Together, they're a good team. But honestly, Troy could have a better sense of humor. Like, it would make the broadcast better. He's so straight-edged. Do you
think, like, Fox, because it's on, well, they were on, now they're on ESPN, but do you think that he's been trained to be, like, to not be too like, crazy or weird in a way? Because it's, like, the typical average American kind of likes your straight edgeness.
Straight edgeness. And obviously, he was the quarterback of the Cowboys back in the 90s.
You're very white.
I would love
Troy Aikman.
Yeah,
that's the whitest name ever.
The whitest name. He's obviously a football legend. But, like, I would love to meet someone who knows Troy Aikman personally. Like, is he actually a laid-back guy, or is he that weird in person?
Right. Yeah.
Any viewers, let us know. Or listeners. Please.
I've even seen, like, he's definitely a hustler because he has all these, like, other entrepreneurial side things going on. And I've seen him, like, talk about some of their products and businesses. And it's the same shit in all of them. All his videos, it's like he's very straight edge. He barely even smiles or laughs.
Never heard him laugh.
If he's the complete opposite in his personal life, I give him all the credit. If he's just like the biggest prankster joker, that's amazing.
That'd be cool.
You got to let you're on TV, like, that much. You got to let your personality shine a bit, dude.
Yeah,
like,
what are you doing? He's so monotone. Even Joe Buck smiles. Joe Buck laughs, makes jokes. Like,
Joe Buck gets clowned on though by everyone, and Joe Buck he gets hated on. He should probably get hated on because there's a lot of, goddamn. But
yes,
man, like Troy, what an interesting fellow.
What an interesting guy. Like, what is he? And he's not married.
Troy, if you're ever listening to this, just let your personality shine a bit.
Let it shine.
He's not married.
He's not married. He does not have a ring on. I think that's known. He's a bachelor. I think he once was married. So, like,
he's got a big head.
He's got a big head,
like, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, if you're a woman and you meet Troy Aikman and he's like just monotone, talking like this, like really serious the whole time. It's so boring. Who knows?
We'll meet him one day and
we
find
will
out.
Meet him.
We can do some digging and see if he's actually like that or not. He probably is.
Probably is.
Speaking with the NFL here, I just have to ask you, sticking with NFL and broadcasting.
Yeah.
Kurt Menefee.
Wow.
Do you know the name Kurt Menefee?
I know Kurt Menefee.
No one knows who he is.
Yeah.
And I just had to point that out to you and get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I think if you're a hardcore football fan,
who is he?
He's just like the main host, just a side guy. He took over for Gumbel. Remember the Gumbel brothers? Bosie, one of the Gumbels, did the main NFL game day.
Does he do anything else, or does he just host the show?
He just hosts it. He doesn't even offer any.
What a gig!
In Menefee doesn't actually offer any analysis. He just directs the analysis from Terry Bradshaw.
It's an amazing gig.
And how he
has nothing to deal with fame. Like
Jimmy Johnson
probably makes like a cool $10 million a year.
Yeah. Even more. I bet he's been doing it for a while.
He's tenured now. Yeah, he's probably making good money.
But who is Kurt Menefee?
I don't know, man. No one knows who he is. There's like,
what a gig.
These are the types of things where you watch every week and you don't even like consider it because you see the same person. But when you really think about it, you're like, who the fuck are these people?
Who are these people?
A lot of them are like former players, so it makes sense. Like Terry Bradshaw or
Howie,
just all of them. Like
all of them. Strahan.
Chris Sims.
Collinsworth Jr.
I was gonna say Bubby Brister.
Bubby Brister.
Bubby Brister. Who's the other guy that's with Chris Sims and all them on CBS and Bill Cowher?
Oh, it's Boomer.
Yeah, Boomer Esiason.
Boomer. Yeah.
They're all like former players, so it's like you get that makes sense. But then there's just like the random, like Gumbel's not a good. Gumbel's like a legendary guy, but like who the fuck is Kurt Menefee?
Yeah. Who is Kurt Menefee? We would love our listeners again to let us know.
Man. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. We could talk about Kurt Menefee and Aikman and all these guys forever, but there's just a point where you just got to face the people that are on air and take it. We're not the ones hiring them. We're not the execs, so it is what it is, man.
It is what it is. Yes.
Now, this is something we've talked about in the past. It's related more to work. But do you have any thoughts on people overusing the phrase "please advise"?
Please advise. And wasn't there one more that you always got?
Please confirm. Please advise. I don't. There's been so many.
Been so many.
I can't even begin to remember all the times I've had a fucking email or someone messaging me, and it's like a very nice message or email, and then at the end it's like, please advise, and it suddenly seems kind of aggressive, and why write that?
Yeah, why write that? I mean, what would you prefer them to say, I guess is the question.
I would, what I say, and it might seem a little passive aggressive in a sense, but I think it's the right way to phrase it. What I usually say is like, if you could please let me know when you get a chance, I would appreciate it.
Yes.
I think that's a very polite way to phrase it.
Very polite. That kind of accommodates and shows more empathy. Like whenever you have a second, like I know you're busy, kind of thing. Obviously, everyone's busy.
Like I don't work for you, not you. I don't work for you. Like don't tell me to fucking please advise. Don't please advise. Yeah. Please confirm. Are you my boss? Like are you paying me? No. So like. Fuck out of here with your please advise bullshit.
Yeah, and I never even really thought of it as being that aggressive until you kind of bring it up. It is kind of like please advise, like take action.
Right. Okay. It's they might not even mean it that way, but it's just like a wake up call for anyone listening. You might want to check yourself before you use that next time because it sounds a little threatening.
It does. Yeah, it's kind of unwelcome.
And I have to ask you, co-host. This is completely changing topics, but do you have any thoughts on how every reggaeton song sounds exactly the same? And I am not like this is 100% true. Every single reggaeton has that same drum beat in the background that's like
Hola. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I've never even considered that.
What are your thoughts on
I agree. No, I agree, and I think all reggaeton, yeah. Why is it even a genre?
Hola, mi llama.
Hey,
mi llama. Hola.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a great question.
Yo quiero comida. My name is Daddy Yankee. Daddy Yankee, hola.
I don't know any Spanish, so I'm not
Mi
gonna
papi,
pretend.
hola.
Yeah, man. I wish I knew. All right. I do know the beat that you're. I mean, I hope our listeners can maybe give us some more info. What is the origins of reggaeton? Where does it come from? Jamaica?
I don't know, man. I know it is so popular, and I know it is a huge following. I think it comes. Might be from Puerto Rico. I don't even know, but it's a massive following. It's so popular, but every single song has the same drum beat in the background.
Yes.
And I don't understand how that works.
I don't know either, man. I don't know.
All I know is that Daddy Yankee is a boss.
Yes.
And all of his songs kind of sound the same in a way because he just screams in Spanish. And, I tried to give a good example before, but like, man,
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying he's not talented. I think he is probably really talented because I just don't understand Spanish and I can't really understand the flow.
Yeah,
but
the flow.
He's it's like.
I think we should probably open up the next episode with some reggaeton, though.
Yeah.
And so when you hear that, listener, because you've been loyal and we start that episode, just know that it's for you and for the laughs.
Absolutely. And then I have a question, another question kind of relating to music videos, but this is more about just YouTube in general. And what are your thoughts on them just slowly inserting more and more ads into every video you watch on YouTube?
Oh, so many ads.
All of a sudden, it used to just be like, before you started watching a video, there was a 5-second ad that you could skip, and that was like kind of a pain, but it is what it is. Now it's every single video you watch, there's 2 ads. Some of them you can't even skip. After you watch the video, there's another ad. Why is there not more complaints about this?
You know what, co-host? We talked about off air about me kind of letting loose a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there are times when I see an ad on YouTube and I want to punch a fucking hole through my screen.
Right, and you can't even choose what it is.
Yeah.
Do they give you the little is there any feedback you can give on ads that they're showing you or no?
Once in a while, maybe they ask for a survey, but most of the time, no. And it's the most goddamn annoying fucking thing.
Oh man, I mean, there's gotta be a way around it.
At least YouTube let us like choose from like 5 different ads. You know, like
don't
that
care,
would be
man.
something. They don't care.
Well, it's all about the money. Whoever's ever like paying the money to get their ads out there in front of the most viewers, they do it.
And like I can do a 5-second ad and then skip it, but sometimes you get like 2 15-second ads. When you first like get to a new channel, you have to watch 2 15-second ads as of today,
Yeah.
October 1st, and I literally want to throw my computer out the window.
A lot of JB Pritzker ads out there, huh?
A lot of
co-host?
Pritzker, yeah, a lot of Pritzker. There's all sorts of stuff, man, and I'm over it.
And then speaking on this topic of ads, how many times have you been driving in the car where a radio ad came on, and it had a siren in it? Don't you think those should be banned?
Oh, absolutely banned.
How incredibly dangerous are those?
It's so dangerous. And like if you're listening in your car, all of a sudden you think you hear sirens, you're gonna start swerving all over the road.
It's absolutely terrible, and it's a problem that we're facing that no one is describing. It's also a problem in the sense that there should be better coverage or recognition when an ambulance or a fire truck or even a police car is nearby you. Because what if you have your volume on your radio, your music blasting, and you can't hear the siren? How is there not a better system in place to notify you that there's a
real life emergency?
Right. We're so reliant upon the siren, and a lot of the times people can't even hear the siren for a variety of reasons, and B, they're playing fucking sirens, and like we just started this topic off with like the commercials, like you don't even know if it's real or not. There's got to be a better way.
I would love to hear about not love, but it would be kind of crazy to hear about like a 15-car pileup where the guy started like going off the road because he's like, I thought I heard the siren on my YouTube. Like,
right. Actually, do you remember the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where Larry David was I think it was at a red light. And then he heard on the radio the commercial that there was the honking horn.
Yes.
Not a siren, but it was like beep beep, and it was like some commercial. And he thought the guy behind him was honking at him.
Yes.
And then he got pissed at him. And then the guy was like, "Yo, why are you yelling at me?" And then they ended up fighting, and then they ended up crashing because of it. But it's a similar concept.
Yeah, absolutely. That's literally the concept we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be honking horns in commercials. There shouldn't be sirens. Know your rule.
Know your rule. Stay in
There was a
your
wrestler that used to say that. I can't remember. Yeah.
yeah.
Know your rule.
Know your rule. Yeah.
Have some fucking brains.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Literally.
Yeah, it's just idiots out there. Like this is another thing I always think about co-hosts is there's always people behind these radio ads, these TV commercials. There's people writing these. They don't just commercials and ads don't just appear out of the blue.
Absolutely.
There's people forming these and coming up with like the concept of them. Fuck these people. You fucking idiots.
Fuck 'em. I mean,
You're putting people's lives in danger. Half the shit you put out is not terribly unfunny. Like this is your job. Come up with some better stuff.
Well, and what's fucked up is that these advertising and marketing people have definitely A/B tested those ads, and somehow their testing results showed that having a horn or a siren got better results. I don't know how that's possible, but
it's
wild.
Maybe. I mean, it's just crazy to me, and they should be sued. If you're in an accident or someone fucking can't be transported to the hospital or someone's house burned down because of these dumbass creators, they should be something should happen to them because it's not cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you have any thoughts on
moving on?
Moving on. There's a bunch of. Have you ever tried to sell something on Facebook?
The Facebook Marketplace.
You ever try to sell something on Facebook? Have you ever run into those scammers the second you try to sell something on Facebook, you'll be bombarded by scammers.
Ooh.
And my question to you is: have you ever noticed how absolutely ridiculous their photos are? Their profile photos are.
I have not, because I'm not big on Facebook anymore. But
okay,
let's hear your take.
I just think it's funny is like if you're going to try to be a scammer, learn better English and grammar. That's my tip number one. And B, make your profile seem a little more realistic. A lot of the times they'll message me and it's very clear from the first message they don't speak any English and they don't know what they're doing.
Of course.
And B, their fucking photo is a picture of like a Samoan in the jungle with sunglasses on, and their name is like Nick Saturafrafryan. And I'm like, oh yeah, let me just Venmo you thousands of dollars, you fucking dipshit.
I mean, that's kind of the current status of our internet and being on all sorts of sites is all these scams.
At least have a name like Jack Smith or just
even when you go to a random website and try to check out, then you get like the JavaScript isn't even done on the website. You get immediately turned to like all these ads, and they're asking you for cookies and all this bullshit. Like 15 years ago, you could just check out and then be done, or you could sell a product and be done. Now you got a million fucking bots and scammers sending you, messages. What has happened to the internet?
What has happened to the internet? What's happening in this world? Every sidewalk we fucking walk on out there in this world, we're always. What are your thoughts on the people that approach you with the big smiley face? And you're walking to the other side of the street, and all of a sudden, someone comes up to you, and they're like, "Hey, you got a sec? You got a sec? Hey, do you want to talk about this? Do you have any thought? It's like because the average response you're going to be like, you're going to be like, oh, I gotta go, what do you have any extra thoughts?
Yes, I do have some thoughts because they're going to ask me about a kid in Africa who's starving, and obviously, nobody should be starving, but there's two people literally behind them that are living on this concrete, sleeping on the concrete, homeless, and they're trying to talk about getting food for this person in Africa, and you got a homeless person behind you. Like what?
They also people are trying to go about their day and not deal with you fucking
Yeah.
I don't mean to say it.
Yeah, you can say it.
I don't want to say the word retard because I don't think it's right. But anyways, you fucking asshole. You're like, I'm minding my own business, walking on the sidewalk. I don't need you to give me shit for not listening to your spiel that you're trying to give thousands of other people out here.
Yeah.
Like, the second I say, hey, I'm busy or I don't want to talk right now, don't be like, oh, you have something better going on. Don't give me some fucking.
Yeah, don't give me the lip. Don't. Yeah,
you're the one out here trying to peddle some nonsense. Like, why don't you get a better fucking job, you dumbass?
Yeah, huge dumbass. If you're gonna be on the street with a clipboard, don't be talking back. If someone,
life,
don't be the low lifes. Don't be talking back to the random citizen walking by you.
Absolutely crazy. There's just there's so much nonsense out there that people just have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. They don't really know how to address it.
Yeah. And one more thing to add, this podcast is about being positive and providing insights. We don't want to hate or be negative.
To an extent.
Although we're going to be, we're going to say what we want to say.
Yeah, we want to call it out too, though. Like we're not trying to have a lot of our stuff is like all the BS that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like we want to call that out.
We want to call it out that we're not trying to sugarcoat anything in our modern world because our modern world has a lot of issues that need to be called out.
All right, I gotta ask you, Colas. We're gonna try to wrap this episode up soon. We're actually, we talked about this before. We're gonna try to make these a little shorter. We're not gonna we're not trying to go full hour. So I have to ask you, Colas, what are your thoughts on people that go to museums and sit on benches and look at art for hours?
Hours. What are they doing? I don't know.
And why in every single movie and TV show when they have to have undercover serious discussions do they meet on the art museum bench?
That's a good point. I mean, I think of a lot of, I feel like, Sopranos, not even, we're talking about a lot of series. Ray Donovan, my co-host, has suggested to me, but.
If you sat on a bench and looked at a piece of art for 2 minutes, wouldn't that be enough?
Yeah, it'd be enough. Well,
what does an hour give you?
Well, you're talking about a true art connoisseur or people trying to do a shady deal in front of a art piece?
Everything.
I don't know. I mean, if you're truly in art, how long can you stare at a piece of art before being, satisfied?
I don't understand it. I can't stand it.
I can't stand it. Yeah. Although now I kind of want to go to the Art Institute, just to check it out.
The Art Institute, yeah, these fucking museums. What are your thoughts on these social media content, geniuses that work for brands like Wendy's and Clorox? That are, they're putting out these tweets and these Instagram posts representing the brand, and they're trying to fight and beef with other brands, and they're they think that they're gods because
they're gods.
They're like, hey, LeBron James got a thought on this, and it's from Wendy's, and get 5,000 retweets and responses, and the 18-year-old intern that put it up from from Vancouver is just sitting there thinking they're God.
Well,
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on
Yeah.
this. I think there's nothing more cringy than a corporate account trying to be snarky. Like even the Wendy's stuff, which is kind of funny sometimes. But like you're an enormous corporation. You don't get to do memes. You don't get to participate in the meme. They don't have any idea of what it means. Is that what you're saying? Like it's not funny. It's not
I just
funny
think
when
it's
an enormous company is going to do that.
You know, you have a team. These companies have a team of like these social media geniuses, apparently,
they think,
so-called
yeah.
geniuses that they just try to start shit and try to get engagement on
Agreed.
social media.
Yeah, they're trying to get engagement, and it just comes across as cringy.
Wendy's will try to start beef with McDonald's. They're like, "Hey, McDonald's, you have thoughts on this?"
Yes.
And then they get all it's just typical social media stuff. They get a bunch of likes and retweets, and whoever posted it probably thinks they're God because they get a bunch. They're like, 5,000 people. Like half of them are bots.
No,
they're not even real people.
It has to be. It's so cringy. It's so lame. I don't know if you saw, but the Chicago Bears accidentally had one of their Dick Butkus tweeted a selfie from their corporate the team account. That's funny. Like if it's raw and it's real and it's an actual fuck up, that's hilarious. But the snark to me is extremely weird.
All right, and then I have to ask. We're gonna go two more here. Tim McGraw.
Oh no.
Tim McGraw has played the same drunk, abusive dad character in every movie, TV show. Is that true or not?
Tim McGraw.
I cannot count how many movies I've just constantly seen Tim McGraw playing this character in. Any thoughts on this?
Well, I want to hear your thoughts. Why does he take those roles?
I don't know, man, but I was just watching shows the other day, and I saw him again in this type of role, and I just don't get it.
I don't get it.
Co-host.
I don't get it. You're the expert here on this one. And you know what? These country singers, they probably get typecasted into that role, and it's kind of bullshit. Like they should demand better for themselves.
Co-host, I have to ask you for the last one here tonight. Ringtones. Have you ever thought about how so many people have the same ringtone, like because they all have iPhones, and when it rings and dings in public, no one knows whose phone it is?
Nobody knows. Everybody's checking their phone with the same.
It's such
ding.
a problem.
Yes.
These are things our audience they're like stupid, but it's just things that they happen. You all know what we're talking about, and it's why do these things happen still?
And then if you would just try to change your text message, the ding from your text. If you had something different, someone would be like, "Why did you change it?" It's almost like expected now. There's like this weird pressure about keeping it. It's so weird. Great point.
It is a good point, and this is why we fucking dish them out here. There's kind of a similar concept of squirrels and chipmunks are running around everywhere, and no one even gives it 2 seconds of thought. I do a lot of bike rides out on these trails, and I can't count how many times a squirrel or a chipmunk is run out, and I've almost killed them. But just in general, we walk around as humans throughout the day. It doesn't even only have to be in parks. It can be anywhere. There's fucking squirrels and chipmunks everywhere running around us. We give it 0 seconds of thought.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, that is what it is.
Well,
it's weird though,
it's
man.
weird. Especially the
It's
squirrels.
weird.
Squirrels get a free pass.
Birds are kind
everywhere.
of weird too. Birds are like groups of 70 of them, and they're just
birds.
gliding.
I think we'll have to tackle the birds on a different podcast because that's a whole topic.
The
A
birds,
great
man.
topic. Birds. Are birds even real? I saw a bumper sticker that was like, "Birds are not real."
All right, I have one more for you, co-host.
Uh-oh.
Do you have any thoughts on people freaking on the concept of this? Is really I don't know if concept. I don't even know what concept means. I couldn't even tell you what concept means. What the fuck? When I am so sick and tired of people freaking out if you haven't seen certain movies.
Yes. Don't freak out. No, everybody's different.
Just because you haven't seen Star Wars, just because you haven't seen Back to the Future, just
Agreed.
because you haven't seen
Goodfellas or Godfather.
it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
All
If
right.
you haven't seen Star Wars, you're probably actually healthy, a healthy person.
We could go on and on, co-host. Obviously, we're running about our sweet spot here, so we're gonna end this episode.
We're gonna end it.
As you can give your your ending note after this, but my ending note is just for all of our listeners, know that we got more coming. We're gonna link up with PTT Network as we talked about at the beginning of this episode a little more. We got some exciting new guest co-hosts coming on soon. Happy
yes.
October to all. May you have a great October, my favorite month. And
Yes.
any words from you?
Yeah, last thing I'm going to say is don't trust Troy Aikman. Don't trust big corporate accounts on social media trying to be funny. And yes, we hope you have a great October. We will be back in touch with you soon.
Have a great day, a great night, and remember always, face the day.
Face the day.
Face the day.